Welcome to this very special series on India and Brazil on the KEJ Masterclass Live. Every fortnight, along with my esteemed friend who you can see on the screen smiling, my friend and podcast host Tom Reaoch, we explore together our nation's journeys in business, culture, and politics, and podcasting, of course, as we strive to find our rightful place in the global arena. And as you can see, joining us live from Campinas, Brazil is Tom Reaoch, who has spent his whole life there, an American known as the king of networking, settled there in Brazil with a wealth of experience in market development and product management across diverse businesses. Tom is the founder and host of three business podcasts, a public speaker and author. His deep expertise and extensive network will provide invaluable insights into Brazil's dynamic landscape. And today we are talking on profitable opportunities for small businesses in India and Brazil. And Tom will tell us exactly how Indian businesses can make better of the opportunities available in Brazil. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Very good. Thank you again, Ajay. Thanks for everyone who's listening, watching, following our chats. I think we found a very interesting recipe to help others reach success. And as you say on KEJ Masterclass, profit from masters. I think what we both have as an opportunity and a challenge for us is to help others become those masters and obviously make profit from that. My position here in Brazil, understanding the culture, understanding the challenges, and I want to call them difficulties. But as we've seen and we've talked about in other chats, there are cultural differences. There are characteristics that influence in how we can have business and make business. And we both agree that business is with people. And from my perspective here in Brazil, there's a lot of opportunity. But how can we reach that? How can we both help Indian business persons reach that? And more specifically, small business owners. Because obviously out in the world, when we talk to large corporations, they have global communication possibilities, they have global networking arrangements, they have offices everywhere, they generally have local persons in the countries where they operate. So it is easier. They've done that over time. But for somebody starting up, and that's here in Brazil or in India, wanting to start a business, wanting to find a new market, it's a challenge. And with the ever-growing influence of technology, that is also an opportunity. Because for the small business owner, what you bring, what I think I bring to a small business person is a connection to the world. And more specifically, connections, in our case to Brazil, but not only a connection, we're bringing information, we're bringing knowledge, we're bringing experience. Your Masterclass series always has masters that share their information, which is valid not only in India or Brazil, it's valid everywhere. But what we will do here on our chat is to focus on the validity of information for Brazil. And in the case of Indians, I'd like your help to help Brazilians understand how to enter the Indian market. So that's what we always talk about here.
Absolutely, Tom. And a lot of people want to be in a place like Brazil, but obviously a lot of business is already happening, but a lot we can do. And India is you can say a land of small businesses. It's a huge number of small businesses. Government is also putting a lot of emphasis through startups, and in this global world, why to leave out a place like Brazil, which is coming up so strongly in almost all spheres of businesses, including podcasting, podcasting, and that's a big market now. So a lot of the world's eyes is there on Brazil, and Brazil is also now trying to find a better place for itself in the
Mhm.
global world. So it's a place to be, and I'm sure a lot of businesses, Indian businesses, especially in this global world, online world, they would be wanting to reach to Brazil. So we would like to understand from you, Tom, exactly how should or how can Indian businesses, small businesses especially, look at the Brazil market, look at that big part of the world, and that is also it opens the whole world in that part of the world through Brazil. So how can Indian businesses, small businesses especially, explore and find more opportunities in a place like Brazil and that part of
Mhm.
the world?
Well, I want to start out by offering our audiences, and I hope you show those now, two links. All right. One is to the Indian Brazil Chamber of Commerce, which is being showed there. So it's indianbrazilchamber.org, O-R-G. Uh, that is a chamber here in Brazil. They have three regional offices, one in Belo Horizonte in the state of Minas Gerais, the other in Rio de Janeiro in the state of Rio de Janeiro, and a third in Sao Paulo, the state of Sao Paulo. Uh, Rio, Sao Paulo, and Belo Horizonte are three very expressive markets and different inputs. Sao Paulo is a financial center. Rio had been, it's also a tourist center. Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais. Minas Gerais means general mines. The state is a mining state, so it's extractive. There's a lot of heavy industry. There's a lot of business in general, manufacturing type businesses, automotive in that state. But this organization, this Chamber of Commerce, obviously attracts Brazilians to that, attracts Indians to this chamber, and acts as a crossroad to present one to the other. The major challenge in coming to Brazil for anybody is that most Brazilians do not speak English. We've mentioned that before. It is a challenge. So, my first suggestion to people listening, contact organizations like the India Brazil Chamber.org, send them a message, see their site, find who some of their members may be, and create a connection there, first of all. In that, I'm sure they will help. They also have, from the Brazilian side, they organize commercial visits to India. So they will take Brazilian business persons and take them for business type tours or participations in conferences in India. So through that connection, you can also see who are the Brazilians coming and visiting India. And maybe from the Indian standpoint, depending on your regionality, because also India is large, where do they go? And maybe meet up with them during these excursions. So that would be the opportunity for a face-to-face contact for an organization taking Brazilians to India. They also do the reverse. So when Indians come here, they are the conduit of helping those Indian business persons, startups, large organizations find the path and the connections here in Brazil. So that's the first thing, find a connection. Brazilians, in terms of networking, which I feel I understand quite a bit, they're not as they're very friendly, but relationship building for Brazilians is very important, but it's not immediate. Brazilians tend to be shy when they meet a new person or a new circumstance. All right. So in that, and they're not open to risks. So they're more focused on the past, on the origin of their company or what they're doing. I'm not saying they're not future oriented, but they're probably not as future oriented as Indians are. So that is a cultural difference. So they will refer to their past successes and may overlook what are the future opportunities within their own country. So to understand that's happening, when you try to make a connection, first you need to be very patient. Brazilians may not respond the first time. They may not respond the second or third time. So patience pays. But to that connection, And I see you, AJ, in India. WhatsApp is used quite a bit.
Right.
With
Right.
billions, most small businesses, I'm going to say all, but most small businesses in Brazil have a WhatsApp business account.
Absolutely.
And that's how they communicate. That's how they communicate their business. That's how they communicate with persons, with their clients. That's the way they communicate. The challenge becomes, because also Brazilians like to use WhatsApp for verbal messages, for audio messages, and not necessarily text. But my suggestion to Indians is when you do find, and you can find the WhatsApp number, and you connect, just send text messages in English. Try not to use and try not to respond with an audio, even if you get an audio response. Why is that? Again, Brazilians don't speak English. It's difficult, but technology has helped us. If we get a text message, we can take that text message and we can translate that very easily. So I can have a page of English here, right? And I can then put that through a translator and it'll be translated. So I can have that in Portuguese and translate it. So those are the mechanisms, those are the tools that are available today. They weren't available in the past. So today, using WhatsApp, email as well. I want to say that email is not used here, but for small and medium-sized businesses, it's more WhatsApp than it is email. But again, always send a text message in English. YouTube, you're a specialist in YouTube. All right. If you have a short YouTube about your business or about yourself, send that as well. Because we know that seeing is believing, right, AJ? So if you can show and tell something about who you are or what your company is or what your possible interests are in Brazil, add that to your WhatsApp message. And that will even help persons who are receiving these messages. And maybe probably that person receiving your message does not speak English. And their first reaction tends to be fear. How can I answer this? So the communication becomes a barrier for the Brazilians in meeting and matching opportunities. So if you understand that that's happening, it's not that they don't like you, it's not that they're not interested, but they're shy in the sense since they don't speak English. And communication is the essence of all business connections. That's the first connection in any sense. That's with large, medium, and small companies. So it's not the challenge, it's the opportunity. So if you have the patience to go through that cycle, as I mentioned, it's easier for you to find as an Indian business person success in Brazil.
Right, right, Tom, and it's a good insight that you have given, that that there also people in Brazil use a lot of WhatsApp business. In India, a lot of businesses use WhatsApp business, and I keep on getting. I myself have one account on WhatsApp business, though I don't use it much. But being a
Mm-hmm.
content entrepreneur, obviously, I will also have to start looking at that. But I keep on getting a lot of business, the messages from businesses, including small businesses, as well as, I must tell you, biggest businesses, all the
Right?
big companies, top, you can say top companies of the country, and who are global companies. They are also using WhatsApp businesses for even critical work in terms of banking, and also that we are getting. It's a good insight that that people from Brazil, who can always translate, they use audio messages. Here in India also, a lot of
Right.
people I've seen audio messages. It takes away all the hassle for of
Mm-hmm.
your writing or typing something on the phone, which can sometime. But I've seen a lot of people using audio messages, and I'm also tempted to use now, but I use less of WhatsApp in messaging, because I generally have the type of work that I do, it's mostly email and all. But I am also, because it is very interactive. The person can listen to you, and nothing can get lost in translation. You speak, and you speak
Right.
in the
Right.
language that the person. Even in India, a lot of people communicate in Hindi. So in English, you may Hindi. If you communicate it, you will communicate in a different manner, in a much more manner that you are actually wanting to communicate in. And I guess that's a good insight, that if we write in text message in whatever
Mhm.
language, then people in Brazil can certainly translate it and actually get
Right.
the real understanding of what somebody else is telling. In terms of being, Brazil people being a bit more towards, uh, uh, taking their time uh, to respond. That is okay. A lot of people are have their own ways of looking. That's also a nice insight. Indians are
Mhm.
a bit more friendly, much more approachable. That's the general sense of the outside world is, and I guess that is where, that they can complement each other, whatever is left. But yes, in terms of but you have there are many people even in India. They take their own time. It is all about individuals, and I'm sure wherever
Mhm.
there is an opportunity, people will certainly get that time. The only thing is, if Brazil, if a person from Brazil gets a message from India, they got to be also doing their research, that okay, they are also doing the right sort of,
Right.
businesses understanding of, because here lots of businesses are there. You want to deal with the right kind of business. You do the
Mhm.
right kind of research, because it is always better to be sure about the companies you are
Right.
dealing with. A lot of good companies are there, but there might be a few companies which may not be as per your expectations. So you don't
Mhm.
want to start off on the wrong note. So go for that. That will save you. But I guess that is where everywhere in the world, everywhere in the
Uh-huh.
world, even in the US, or any part of the world. That's the good part, vetting and doing. Even in a job hire,
Mhm.
you may not be hiring the person who has written exactly what they are in the
Right.
resume. So now, to understand better, Tom, is that what are the places you talked about, the India Brazil Chamber of Commerce? What about the AmCham, Brazil American Chamber of Commerce?
Well, the AmCham, which is the American Chamber of Commerce in Brazil, I've been part of that for many years. In Campinas, I'm a founding member of AmCham here in Campinas. Previous to that, AmCham used to be in the capital cities of the states. So they would have a headquarter office in each one of those states. Campinas was the first city, not capital of the state, to have a regional office. And that was more than 20 years ago. And why, even though I was an American, why did I join that organization? Because today there are over 5,000 companies in Brazil, these companies, because the membership is by companies. And there are over 40 different nationalities amongst those. So it's the American Chamber, but it's not the American Chamber. It's a chamber of commerce, which started as the American Chamber. It's been in Brazil for over 100 years. So it's not new. It's been here for years. And it actually started by American companies 100 years ago to understand how to develop the Brazilian market, how to develop relationships. So what I say and what I've learned is something that Americans learned 100 years ago in doing business in Brazil. And it's the same. It's relationships. It's finding the people. Brazilians like to be introduced by another person that they already know.
Okay.
So they're sort of aversive to people that they might have just met, but they don't know. All right. So if AJ would walk into a room here, it's not that they don't like AJ, but if AJ is presented to them by another person that they already know, that connection is almost immediate. And that's Brazilian culture. I've traveled throughout Brazil, and as part of the American Chamber today has 15 different locations in Brazil. And I've traveled and spoke at 13 of those connections throughout the years, speaking about networking, helping Brazilians understand the cultural differences in networking from my perspective, which was an American perspective, and teaching some of the things I just said here of communication, of being open to meeting new people. Because what I say, what I have said, and we know that, I can only increase my relationship, my network through people that I don't know.
Right.
It's mathematical. So one new person is one new connection. I can reinforce my connections through people I already know, like you, AJ. We met years ago virtually. We don't know each other personally, but we've developed not only a business relationship, but a business trust. You've invited me to do this, what we're doing. So that's evolution. That takes time. And it's success. And as small business persons like we are, we also don't have organizations. We don't have hundreds of employees. And we don't have more than 24 hours a day to dedicate to our businesses. So back to the American Chamber, thousands, the majority of the companies part of the American Chamber are small businesses. And small, I mean medium, they may be one or two, they may be organizations, 10, 20 people. They're regionally located in the different states. So that's one of the points. And that link that we showed, the AmCham Brazil, there's another link that shows the Nossas Unidades, our offices. Clicking on that link will open up a map. We'll show the cities where it's located. Clicking on each one of those cities, then you'll be able to see an address, a telephone number, and initiate the content. And the same way that we just mentioned, that could be by an email saying who you are, where you're from. I'm an Indian business person. I'm an Indian person looking for opportunities in your city in Brazil. Because if you do address to the local offices, and Brazil is big, we've mentioned that before. It's a continental country, opportunities everywhere. So in sending that type of email, waiting for that response, who can respond, again, giving the opportunity for the translation, that's a step. There you'll be covering almost all of Brazil. So these 15 state offices cover the majority of the country, not only in size, but population, economic importance, opportunities, and that's from A to Z. That's from everything. So there are. So know and try to connect. What have we done? We've connected. And we can take a connection, so you can nurture a connection and let it grow. So the biggest challenge for any business person, that again, Indians coming, try to get the initial connection. Build from that connection to others, because that initial connection will help you connect to others. Because that's the important part of connecting here. So the relationship building. In India, it may be different. I don't know. I can connect to you. I connect to somebody in Mumbai, connect different people. I don't necessarily have to be connected through you. I'm sure it will be a help. I'm sure that if I'm connected with AJ and AJ recommends me to somebody, it's a help, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tom. You are absolutely right. Even in India, it's the same thing. It is another matter that as an individual, you may build new connections, but nothing like knowing somebody who knows somebody else. This is how most of the businesses that I have seen, traditional businesses. I come myself from a traditional business family, though I myself went into journalism but what I have seen is that firstly, those family connections into businesses, you get connected through one family member or somebody who knows very well, like that works better. Secondly, if it's a friend also, and you want to know somebody, you always look for somebody who knows that person.
Right.
Not because there is anything lacking, but it will immediately build that trust. Somebody is almost guaranteeing that relationship, guaranteeing the authenticity of the person, and it works like that. It is understood that if this person is saying, and they ask also that you can do, and I take that response, it means they know both the sides so well that they can vouch for them, and that's the personal connections. Like earlier, people used to consider that such references are not a great thing, and those were some years before. But now you see, even in international organizations, people want to get references, or,
Mhm.
or look for references. Even in hiring, can you hire refer? And now that they give money for that, you will get a referral fee for that if you can refer somebody whom you know who is a good person to be hired. Earlier, it was
Well,
any.
we see that on e-commerce every day. All right, we can go into Amazon and want to buy anything,
Right.
or any e-commerce site and want to buy anything. And what I do, and most people do, you will see the product that you hope to buy, but then you will immediately look at the reviews. You will see how many favorable reviews that product has. If we're on Google Maps, we're looking for a restaurant, we're looking for an event, and we can find the
Right.
place. The second thing, we look to see the reviews. Is the food good? Is there parking? Other things that we in the past we wouldn't have thought, right? So again, technology has brought to us, as small as we can be, opportunities to find. But as a small business person, if we don't use this technology, again, the secret to networking, I say, first is to be found, and then to be connected. All right, to be remembered and to be found. In searching, you can remember you're searching for something and we come up. But then clicking and having that person or that company react, sending a WhatsApp message and somebody reacting, that's the essence of the connection. So there are multiple ways today, even a small business. And in Brazil, again, there are more than 5,000 municipalities. What's that? There are 5,000 communities. Most of them are small, 20,000, 50,000 people, which in some places that's a lot, but comparing to Sao Paulo or Rio or Belo Horizonte, those are very large cities. So sometimes it's better to start with a small business, as a small business person, look for another small business person in a different area than the major centers. Because the major centers, competition from anybody. The smaller cities, back to your point, they are all relationship oriented because they were small.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows everybody in the village, the city, the community. Say everybody, most people do. So you have a reference. So if you can find a contact in a smaller community, that's a great way to start. Because then you can develop trust with somebody small because you're small. And small businesses are small anyway. They don't have what the small businesses in the smaller municipalities in Brazil have. They have more time. They have more time. And in that sense, it's a slower lifestyle. It's more contained. So they may have more time to answer. They would be surprised, and I'm sure they will be pleasantly surprised to have been found by an Indian business person finding them in their smaller municipality. They will immediately tell everybody in the community, I have just received a WhatsApp or an email or a YouTube video from a company in New Delhi or Mumbai or wherever, asking about information of my city, municipality, what I do. Agriculture in Brazil is very strong. And I want to say that from a business sense, because that has helped many of these smaller communities prosper. And that's prosper not only from the sowing and harvesting of crops, but it has helped them prosper from the starting up of many startups. So small municipalities, which in the past were very rural, had very little contact, are now becoming multiple opportunities for service industries across the board. And we've mentioned service previously, different from manufacturing, remember? A service product, a service offering is immediate. It's on internet. You can start that relationship right now. You don't have to build a factory. If you want to build a factory, that's another story. But starting up for small businesses in Brazil is very quick. It's very cost effective. So the time taken from Indians to try to find smaller Brazilian connections could be very, very profitable.
Right, Tom. Right, and from India, I can tell you there are so many opportunities for Brazilian businesses and small businesses, including is that there's so many sectors they can look at. For example, the agribusiness in India, Brazil has that expertise in agriculture, and they can a lot of businesses, small businesses, can find that that opportunity here in India, because you see, agriculture is about the interiors of the
Mhm.
country,
Mhm.
about the heartland, the Hindi heartland, and people who are actually very much part of the ground, and farmers, small farmers, bigger farmers, and they all need technology. A lot of companies from outside are in India into agri businesses, and that area is growing, and there is more and more need for more understanding about agriculture, which can that you can derive. And Brazil companies can explore that part in terms of collaboration in crop cultivation, agro processing. Processing
Mhm.
is something a big thing that can come, because a lot of people want to have food processing that will help them
Right,
a
right,
lot for them. There is a lot of scope. People always look out for
right,
how they can utilize their produce through the use of technology. So that is one area
right.
Brazil companies can certainly look at. They can reach out to existing agricultural
Mhm.
firms and small businesses. There, you don't need to have a tie-up with a bigger company. When smaller,
Mhm.
mid-sized farmers, smaller farmers who have limited land holding, they can also you
I,
can collaborate with them.
I think smaller farmers, they're looking for technology. They're looking for service.
Right,
They may be looking for drone suppliers. And they want a
right,
drone now to come over their farm that
right.
maybe spray locally or do this. Or other packaging equipment that we've seen using the processing part. Agriculture is more today from just harvesting. It's from harvesting, packing, refrigeration, transportation. Much of that is now being done very locally, where it used to be taken to larger distribution hubs. So the interior, as in India, the interior of Brazil is growing very, very quickly and with a lot of prosperity.
Right. And in fact, one big area can be the technology that is much more, looking towards organic farming. More and more people are moving towards, organic products. So one is the existing technology one can collaborate in and try to look at. But one another thing is the government is also putting a lot of emphasis on this soil health, looking
Right.
at the soil health. I guess the other day I looked at the some news report from outside. I guess France or some other country, which was talking that almost 40% of the soil is not of great quality for producing
Production. Right.
anything related to agriculture. And if I have read it correctly, but Indian government has been working on these soil health cards, and that has been, I have not read anything of recently, but I'm sure I have not read it. A lot of thing is happening on that
Mhm.
ground. Soil health card, when you can actually know what's the health of the soil that you are
Right.
working on your farmland. So that is one area a lot of technology can be shared, can be understood, can be looked at the betterment part. Brazil companies, if they can share any technology in this regard, or
Mhm.
maybe Indian companies who have better understanding of this technology or in other aspects of
Right.
agriculture, they can collaborate and make
Or want that technology, want to make that marriage.
right.
Because research, you said, obviously Brazil is fertile, but it's not as fertile. You need to understand the land, and that's anywhere. And so there is so much research having happened in Brazil about crops, about land, about sustainability, which is the word today. How can we make more better? more economically without affecting the environment. So the research and the research side, and I'm saying that back to our Indian friends, academics, students,
Right.
who may not today be thinking about a business, but want to find information. Those channels that we mentioned of the India-Brazil Chamber, the American Chamber, those are also channels for students to find connections, all right, to research and act as that conduit. So that's where that can start, and that's how business can flourish. It's from knowledge. It's from, as you said, earning more, learning more, right?
Right. Learning more and earning more. And in fact, other sectors, that is a huge scope for small businesses is the IT sector and software services, information technology, because a lot of small companies are there, small businesses are there who are creating software, who are creating tools, and that is where other small businesses from Brazil, they can also do that collaboration, take that technology, or maybe if there is anything else, they can come collaborate and produce something which might be required in their work area, or maybe they can market to the world. So that part can be a huge. Another area that can be collaborated is in automotive and auto components, especially
Right.
auto components. The whole, there are so many Indian auto ancillary units here. A lot of people. That is one area Brazil companies can learn and even collaborate and add to it if they have anything to add. So technology sharing can be done, component sharing, sourcing, and even joint ventures can be looked at these
Right.
areas if they want to explore. So most of the places you saw talked about India, Brazil, Chamber of Commerce, and then also about AmCham Brazil, American Chamber of Commerce. Through that, they can gather more information. And then there are other places that they can always find information from Indian side. There's the Confederation of CII in Indian industry. So CII is a
Right.
very good source for them, and they can get a lot of information through that, and that will help them get more about the Indian companies. But a lot of small businesses are there, and there is called ASSOCHAM is there, Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Most of their members are small businesses, MSMEs,
Right.
and the last I know about them is there are more than 400,000 members. So 400,000 members are there in ASSOCHAM and growing. So they will get a chance to understand that chamber, understand the membership, go through their website. You will get a lot of opportunities directly through them. You can connect with a lot of small businesses. Rest, you have got other forums, you have sector specific organizations also.
I want to make one more point that I think is important and relevant we haven't mentioned. And this is, and I agree with you that most businesses are small. But one of the best points for any business anywhere starts out with a search. It could be a Google search. But I want to emphasize more the use of LinkedIn. All right. And even here in Brazil, when I say, is everybody on LinkedIn? No. But from an Indian standpoint, my suggestion is, besides the sites that I mentioned of the India-Brazil Chamber of Commerce or AmCham, do a LinkedIn search. First, be on LinkedIn. Create your profile on LinkedIn, and then search on LinkedIn for Brazilian, not only Brazilian companies or Brazilian persons in companies, but associations. Because you mentioned the word associations. And those business associations, they're very common here also in Brazil. And there are associations that are sensitive to a market, to a specificity. So you can find them. And many of those you can find on LinkedIn. You can find groups. You can find business groups. There are business groups that are sharing information about business in Brazil, agriculture, what have you, doing business in Brazil. So there's a wealth of information on LinkedIn, trying to search and find connections. This also goes back to the point that I made. We need to connect. And if Brazilians want to be connected or need to be connected by some intermediary, you may be able to find those intermediaries on LinkedIn. They can help you make this connection. And you can be found. The other side of the same thing is, how can you be found? So if you do send your WhatsApp to somebody, if somebody sends me a WhatsApp, probably the first thing I will do is to see how that person shows up on LinkedIn. So is that person relative to the business they're saying they are? Do they exist? It could be a Google search that I would make to see, do they exist, how they exist. So from the social media side, we also need to understand that those are considerations that are important. And that's going into any market. Show who you are, have that structure. So when anybody does see your message, they can easily see a relative risk-free connection. So that's the point I'd like to close on today. LinkedIn, be on it. I'm on it. We're on it. You're on it live, right? So you know the value of LinkedIn and YouTube. And we need to show ourselves. So it's to be found, but to be seen when you are found in a more positive light. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tom. You have exactly put it. LinkedIn connection actually shows your will to connect. And when there is a will, there is a way. And when there is a will to connect with other businesses, LinkedIn and many other platforms like this, either government platforms, individual platforms, organizations, business organizations, you will always get to the right person. Maybe one person here and there may not be, not your greatest liking at the beginning, but then you will certainly land up to the right person, to the right connections, to do the right sort of business, either for Indians who are wanting to reach Brazil, or anyone else in Brazil who wants to do business in India. But the first thing that remains is connect, try to connect, and you will find the answer to what you are looking for. So on this note, unless if you want to add anything more, Tom, any closing remarks, then I think this is...
I would just say that if anybody wants to connect with me, it's on LinkedIn, and it's my name, Tom Reaoch, TomReaoch. And I'd be happy to accept your connection, or your follow and interact, or share other information. I think that's the message.
Right, Tom. And in fact, let me take this opportunity. How can people know more about this particular podcast? Because you will also be sharing in your own groups and in your media property. So if you would like to share them, share that for your audience, and also for a lot of people, not just in India in the audience, but also a lot of global audience who may want to listen to this particular show onto your podcast.
Well, the podcast is Talk to Brazil, TALK, the number 2, BRAZIL, Brazil with a Z, .com. You'll find me somewhere. The podcast itself is on all major platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, Deezer, anywhere, any Android or iPhone podcast capable, you will find Talk to Brazil.
Absolutely. Keep talking to businesses outside. Keep talking to businesses in Brazil and from Brazil. For Brazil businesses, keep talking to businesses in India. And this will certainly bring a lot of successes to small businesses in both countries. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.